I want to turn it over to Paul. Do you need a podium? No. Okay. Sorry. At this time, we're going to turn it over to Commander-in-Chief Paul Gramblin.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, I'm here by myself. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I would like to say, I hate to pop anybody's bubble, but Jason calls every man young man. I've seen him call a 92-year-old senior citizen young man.
In somebody's eyes, he was a young man.
Just saying, just throw that out there. I'd also like to thank the group for singing tonight, and I also want to thank you for making my wife happy, because Silver Bells is her all-time favorite Christmas song. And when she's happy, that helps me out a whole lot. Anyway, now she did, I don't know if anybody saw her, after we got through eating, she kind of leaned over and said, "What are you speaking on tonight?" I said, "I ain't got a clue." I'll think of something. But no, for several years before June of 2015 happened, I would go around to camps, divisions, UDC chapters, and talk to them about what I was seeing as our enemies being more committed to their cause, which was to eradicate everything Confederate. They were more committed to that cause than we were at the time of keeping them from doing that. And I'm not saying I knew Charleston was going to happen, but it didn't surprise me. When a crazed maniac goes inside of a black church and shoots it up, and then he gets plastered with a Confederate flag, we knew what was going to happen. And it did, and it's still going on. Right, HK?
Amen.
This is my amen section over here. me and HK go way back. I am a 20-miler.
Amen.
Does anyone in here know what a 20-miler is? There's a few. 2002, 2003, HK walked from Asheville, North Carolina to Austin, Texas. Walked it all. And if you walked with him for 20 miles, at least 20 miles, you were a 20-miler. So when he came through Shreveport, Louisiana, I and my, at the time, 12-year-old son walked with HK for 20 miles. So we are in the 20-mile club.
Amen.
But we saw what was coming. And in June of 15, it happened. And we thought, okay, this is going to wake up some people. People are going to start standing up to these people and fighting against these people. I'm not talking about this, even though some of us wished we could. But I thought, okay, people are going to start standing up to this nonsense. Because that's what it is, it's nonsense. It's bigotry, racist nonsense that's coming our way. It's been coming our way. But what surprised me was that year, after that happened, we had, I think, 6,000, 7,000 new members in the SCV. And that same year, about 4,000 that were already members walked out the door, never came back. And you have to wonder, okay, what's it going to take for people, for Southerners to stand up and actually realize what's going on and do something about it? That year in Louisiana, back in this Louisiana, we always have a Christmas light parade, and we've marched in it, SCV's marched in it for 25 years. Well, because of what happened in Charleston. They said, oh, y'all can't. Afraid y'all can't march, you won't offend too many people. That really doesn't belong in a Christmas parade. And it's like, we've been doing this for 25 years. Well, I know. So we back and forth, met with the mayor, didn't work. So what we're going to do, we was going to flag them. Now, HK, me and Chuck McMichael has been flagging before flagging was a thing. And we were going to do this in Natchitoches. So for a month, we advertised, be at this location at the beginning of this parade to show the mayor and the city council that even though they won't let us in the parade with flags, they're going to see a lot of flags. The day of the parade, after pushing this for a month, and people getting on social media, we had a Facebook page set up for it. All these people said, I'm going to be there, we'll be there. The day of the parade, we had 2 people on each end of the city with our signs and flags. We had 4 people went through the parade route. We handed out 1,100 flags. But the staging area where we was going to flag everyone, we should have had 200 or 300 people there. We had 25 people there. This is 6 months after Charleston happened. And I was amazed, besides being frustrated, I was amazed that all these people were going to come out and stand there with a flag to show our support, and they couldn't even do that. Even the member that set up the Facebook page wasn't there. And so I talked, and the next day he's posting pictures of a couple of our guys handing out flags and how great a turnout we had. And so I got on and I just put a bunch of question marks across there. So he comes back, what are you talking about? I said, what are you talking about? You weren't there. He goes, well, my ride didn't pick me up. I said, okay, you've got a brand new truck. He goes, I know, but I've only just recently moved here, so I don't really know anything about Natchitoches. I said, you had a map of Natchitoches on your Facebook page. So every time he come up with an excuse, I shot him down. And we finally had to come to Jesus meeting. And this particular individual has been just about everything we've done since then, and he's running for Lieutenant Commander of the Louisiana Division next year. But it took that for him to understand how important it is to be there. Now, I understand the sentiment when people get on there, well, we can't be there, blah, 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 whatever reason. But we'll be there in spirit. I got news for you. Our enemies can't see your spirit there. And we have got to be visible. Now, I have to admit, very seldom does the SCV come out and say, we're going to do this at so-and-so location. Especially now with the threat of violence with the Antifa bunch and the BLM bunch, all these nuts. It's a lot more dangerous, and I'm a little hesitant on asking our members to put themselves in harm's way. But when we do show up or say we need to do something, we need to do it. We need to show up and be visible. Show these people we're not going away. Just how many were at Stone Mountain this past April? That's the first time we had a national rally, if you will, service, and we had 1,700 people there. That was a good show. It really was. I wish we could have had 5,000, but we had a good showing. And I thought it was interesting. The people that criticized the SCV for not doing anything weren't there. But this is the kind of stuff we've got to do. Now we've got to, like I said, we got to pick and choose what we can do. Because I'm not going to put anybody in harm's way. but we are doing things. And even though we have kind of dropped the ball in the past number of years about letting our detractors kind of control the narrative, we are in the process of taking that back. When I was elected Commander-in-Chief last year, I told those in convention that I was working with Donnie Kennedy and his brother Ron. And I'm sure everybody in here knows the Kennedy twins. And we've got a plan to take back the narrative. But it was going to be something everyone needs to be involved with. Donnie and I can't do this by ourselves. I wish we had the funds to do it by ourselves, but unfortunately, we're not a George Soros. So we've been pushing for the past year and a half to make Dixie Great Again and Confederate Legion a success. Now, we have constantly had this in Confederate Veteran Magazine. Month in, month out. It's always been there. But I'm amazed at some of the places, the camps that I talk to, and they don't have a clue to what American Make Dixie Great Again and what Confederate Legion is all about. I'm sure a lot of you know what I'm talking about here, right? Show of hands. We have a special fund at headquarters called Confederate Legion. We're asking at least 1,000 members per army to sign up and donate $50 a year to this. That's 3,000 members, the 3,000 people, that's $150,000. There's a lot we can do with $150,000. Of course, it's not going to last, but there's still a lot we can do. First year, that's what we was hoping for. Unfortunately, I think we have about 600 people total that signed up for Confederate Legion. We are making some differences in certain areas. We take this money and we hit hot spots throughout the South and target radio stations or print, newspapers, and we put our word out there. Far too long, ever since the NAACP come up with their resolution to eradicate everything Confederate 30 years ago, they've been doing a real good job of it. That's where this commitment comes into play, which we haven't been doing for 30 years. But we are getting in markets now that we play our ads and people are starting to hear us. Also, Make Dixie Great Again website, we have 6 one-minute radio ads that anyone can download and take it to their local radio station. And however much you can afford to play these ads. Some would do it as a PSA, but we urge camps to do this and play it as much as possible. We have 875 camps in this organization. Just think if every camp was to do that a couple times a day, wherever they live, putting our message out there. Because for 30 years we have been having to defend and explain who we're not instead of who we are. And we all know who we are, what we're made of, what we do, why we do it. But they don't. This is a way to let Joe Q. Public and Billy Bible know who we are. But like I said, we need the help of all the members and non-members, like-minded, to be engaged with this. Now I'm going to ask a question. Some of you may have heard me ask this question before. That's okay. But I have to ask it because since this happened, it has given me a way to make a point. How many in here read your Confederate Veteran magazine? Show of hands. I was speaking at a brigade function back in January. And the brigade commander at the time wanted, I was there, and Linda, Jason, his wife Linda, division commander was there, wanted us to stand in a receiving line. There's about 150 people. So these people are coming through, introducing themselves to us. And I had some of the gentlemen tell me what camp they belonged to. And some of them told me they were officers in certain camps. And then with a straight face, they looked at me and said, "And who are you?" I just looked at them square in the eyes and said, "I'm your commander-in-chief." "Oh, you're that guy." But it got me to thinking, seriously, how many of our members actually read their magazine? I mean, even if you looked at the pictures for 3 years, you would not know who it was. So how many of our members read their magazine? Someone back here raised their hand. Thank you. I always thought SK just looked at the pictures. But if you're not reading your magazine, and if you're not on social media, how do you know what we're doing? How do you know what you're to do? And I'm seeing this, it's unfortunate, I'm seeing this more and more, that our own members aren't reaching out there just to read a magazine and see what's going on. And in some cases, those are the members, the first ones to step up, point a finger at us, leadership's not doing anything. This last issue, November, December issue. In my article, I've done a little experiment. Because I was curious, because this really hits home because it's communication. Without communication, we're not squat. We're not going to get anything done if we don't have communication. So I've done a little experiment in my article this past issue. And I asked the members, if you're reading this, send me a text, private message, email, whatever you got. Just send me something that said, I read it. We have 30,000 members. Someone told me, you've taken an awful big chance on having these people tell you they read it. I said, I don't care. If it takes 30,000, then great. It's been probably a month and a half since everyone has gotten theirs. It's going to get it. Out of 30,000 members, I've had 257 people tell me they read it. That's less than 1% of our membership. Now, it kind of begs the question, actually two. Why are they not reading the magazine? And number two, if they read it, why didn't they tell you? Two very good questions. I wish I had an answer for them. But it all goes back to communication. For as long as I can remember, there's been people say, you know, if y'all would communicate more to the membership, we might be able to get something done. And I agree. We've got to communicate with the membership. But after some of these tests and what I've been hearing, the communication is getting out there, but for some reason it's not being received. Now, I'm not pointing my finger at anybody. I just think this is something we all need to work on, because when we come up with Make Dixie Great Again, we said from the start, this is going to be a long-range plan. It's not going to happen in my 2 years. It's not going to happen in the next 2 years. Because what we lost, we have lost over 30 years. It took them that long to take away what they've taken. So it's not going to happen overnight. But we've got to start somewhere. And I made a promise a year and a half ago that it was going to start with me. And I'm going to continue to put that information out. We're going to continue to work and take the narrative back, because one generation is all it would take to lose this flag. Just one generation. It's gone. That flag's gone. I was speaking back in August, past August, and a year ago August, to the Sons of Union Veterans, speaking to them in Cleveland, Ohio, and Boston. And I told them, I said, you know, we've got some things that we will never agree on, ever. We'll take them, we're going to put them over here, and we're going to leave them right over there. But there are a few things we can agree on. And one of those is that we both have a common enemy. We have an enemy out there that seek to eradicate the moral fabric of this country. And if they was able to do away with that flag and everything it stands for and all its symbols, that one's next. And they've already started. So we've got to work together against that enemy. And we've been doing it. We've made some progress. Now, I'm not going to get into it as far as what you call a victory and what you don't call a victory. I'm not going there. But we have had we've made some inroads on some of our fights, just like in Memphis. I don't know how many of you read my Facebook post that the Sons of Confederate Veterans is in possession of the Forrest and the Davis statues that was in Memphis. And like we've been telling everyone, they're in an undisclosed, safe, and secure location. That's it. No one is going to know where they are, so no one can get to them. They're going to stay safe and sound for as long as we need them there, until we're ready to have them put somewhere. Now, how many here get the SCV telegraph? Oh, there's a few of them. So you know, if you read it, you know what I put out this past week. I can't divulge that information to anyone other than members. So if you're a member and you're not on Telegraph, get with someone that is, and they can tell you what I said. But we've got something coming up in May 23rd. We're going to have a big day. And part of that big day is going to be the ribbon cutting of our new museum. It will be finished, the building itself will be finished probably within a month and a half, where we'll start moving headquarters staff, our library, archives, everything in there. And May 23rd, we're going to do a ribbon cutting, and we won't have all the displays and artifacts. There will be some, but this will be for everyone there to see what we have accomplished. So also keep that in mind, mark it down on your calendar, May 23rd, because the first of the year, we'll be explaining a little bit more on what else is going to take place that day. Now, if you're, like I said, if you're on Telegraph, you know what I'm talking about. You can talk to your other members to let them know, because now their mind's going like this. Okay, what's going to happen? They will tell you. Just not for public consumption right now because of confidentiality rules. But it's going to be big, and you need to be there May 23rd. But the museum is something else that we're using as a way to take back the narrative, and believe me, we're taking back the narrative with this museum. There's not going to be another one like it in the country, because we all know all these other museums, whether they're state, local, government, national, whatever, they have to toe a line on what they can say and can't say, and none of it is to our benefit. This monument, this museum, is ours, which I'm sure most of you have realized by now. It is ours, second to none, and we will be able to tell the true history of those 4 years and what led up to those 4 years and what happened after those 4 years. And we don't have to worry about any government entity coming in and telling us you can't do that. It's not going to happen. It's ours. Not mine, it's ours. And it's something we need to be proud of. Now, if you're an SCV member, and probably next week or two, you will be getting a letter from me, because I just sent it to our executive director today. You will be getting a letter asking you to consider contributions, donations to the museum. I made a point. I'm going to tell you kind of what's in there. In 1991, how many was around in 1991 as far as the SCV goes? There's a few in here. Well, 1991 is when we bought Elm Springs, which is our headquarters. I know some of you wasn't around, period.
That is a young man.
That is a young man. But 1991 is when we purchased Elm Springs. And we heard all the arguments. Oh, we don't need to buy that. We don't need to saddle our children and grandchildren with that debt. We don't need a headquarters. We got Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and all our stuff there is fine. And most of that argument, I have to say, came from some of those in the Army just east of us. But, and from what I also have been told by the commander-in-chief at the time, it was a knockdown drag-out. It got pretty heated on whether or not to buy Elm Springs and whether or not we could afford it. Well, fortunately, those who wanted it prevailed. We bought it. And not only did we not saddle the children and grandchildren with the debt, we paid it off early. And on top of that, we purchased, how many acres, Jason, we got total?
78.
We have 78 acres around Elm Springs that we had bought since then, all paid for. So what I'm asking the membership to look at is to be thinking that when we pay for the museum. Yeah, the museum costs a bit more than Elm Springs. But 29 years ago, we didn't have as many members as we have now. The dues were not as much as they are now. And our assets were a lot less than what they are now. So, and believe me, I've had some in-depth conversation with some of our members about whether or not we should be building a museum. Of course, they didn't bring this up until we almost got the thing built. And of course, my question is, okay, what is your solution? Board it up and walk away? That's not going to happen. We've got a museum. A superb, second-to-none museum with 20,000 feet of space. And it's ours. And we're going to have to pay for it. Now, we can't. We're getting ready, and in my letter, I'm stating we're getting ready to make a mortgage for it. But your AOT councilman, Jimmy Hill, done a little figuring a couple months ago. Just to have something to do. Jimmy likes messing with numbers. And he told us at a GEC meeting in October, he said, you know, I kind of figured this out as far as each member, if they was to contribute to the museum, to pay it off. If every member in this organization donated $166.67, a $6 million museum would be paid off. Just like that. Granted, not everyone can do that. I understand that. But I am asking for our membership to do what they can. And they will. Like I said, we paid off Elm Springs early. And it was ours free and clear, along with the acreage. We can do this with the museum. Now, I don't look for us to be able to pay it off. But we knocked a big chunk out of it. You know, everything that we raise is that much less we don't have to borrow. But even if we do have to borrow the full amount, we'll still pay it off. And we'll pay it off quickly, just like we did Elm Springs. But just think if we did almost pay it off, and the money that keeps coming in, we'll be able to add to the museum, hire more help, whatever we need to do, which we're going to do eventually anyway. But all this kind of stuff we'll be able to do, and all this comes together as far as taking back the narrative. That is my main goal, and I've got 6 months left. My main goal to my term is to take back the narrative. And we're on track of doing that. Now, how many of here have seen on Make DC Great Again, the Commander's Comments section? Okay. I'm not hurt, but that's okay. No, if you get a chance, go to Make DC Great Again, and we've got Commander's Comments all the way back to last November. We talk about stuff that's going on at the time. A lot of information that you can get there to take somewhere else. For instance, the February issue of Commander Comments, we talked about how diversified the Confederate Army was. It was the most diversified army up to that date ever. You had your Native American, Asian American, Italian American, Hispanic American, and the blacks, all fighting for the South. And we document certain people that were doing it. We don't just throw that out there. We had documentation of those men and who they served with, the pictures of some of them. We also talk about the diversity as far as religion. Protestant, Catholic, Jewish. We don't say it, but there were some atheists in there. We know that. But that's just it. You've got all sorts of people that fought for the South. They all had one goal: protect their homes. So we make sure we put this information out. Make DC Great Again, Commander's Comments, and you can take this information, whatever's there, and use it wherever you need to help you take back the narrative. Like I said, that's been my goal. And hopefully when I'm out of office, July 18th.
Counting down.
But no, when I'm out of office, I hope to be able to look back and say, okay, we made a difference. And it looks like we are making a difference. That's my main goal. My duty is for us to make a difference and to take back the narrative. And there's some things happening, especially next year. There's some big things happening next year. I think everyone here is going to be proud and excited about. And if you're not a member, you're going to find out in January. A lot of stuff has happened, a lot of good stuff happened, and I'm excited about it. And I see a light at the end of this tunnel, and we're getting there. Need your help. So with that, thank you for having us here. It's been a pleasure, and God save the South.
Amen.
Thank you.